It's time to meet Clifton.
With your host, Ray Grabowski.
Here's Ray.
Hi, good evening, folks, and welcome to Meet Clifton. It's great to be back in the studio after a short summer break. As the summer season wraps up, we hope everyone had a great and safe summer and a smooth transition back to work and school for all of our Clifton families. We have a wide variety of topics to get through tonight, including mental health, economics, patriotism, and we have some great guests and, as usual, some great music. So stick around, we'll be right back.
Tonight's guests are Financial Advisor Gerard Scorziello, Passaic County Programs Manager Samantha Neville, Artists and Teachers Senior and Junior Kenji Yamashita, featuring the music of Swingman and the Misfit Mutts. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Meet Clifton.
Okay, welcome everyone. My first guest tonight is Gerard Scorziello. He's a senior financial advisor. Gerard has been with us many times. You always ask him for advice, a lot of times before an election year, because there's a lot of questions on people's minds. So, of course, the big question is inflation, and how do you anticipate what's happening in the next coming months, with the election and the impact and on the inflation rates per se?
Well, that's a good question, Ray, and thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure being here. But inflation is kind of a peculiar thing because it impacts different people in different ways. If you're a younger individual and you're sending kids to college, you have to deal with the cost of school inflation. If you're buying a car, that's another type of inflation. And if you're a first-time homeowner, that's something even different. But all of us have to deal with food inflation, right? So it depends on where you are in your stage of life, what's going to happen with inflation going forward and how it relates to the presidential election. It's kind of difficult to say. Inflation does not come as a result of gouging at supermarkets or at car dealers or real estate agents. Inflation is a result of printing money. And the United States Treasury has printed a tremendous amount of money over the last couple of years. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop. It looks like we're likely to continue to have more printing of money. But it's a CPI, Consumer Price Index. And it's, do you know how CPI works, Ray?
No, I do not.
It's just a basket of things that the government puts together and factors them in and says this is what the inflation rate is. They take things in, put things out, take things in and out, back and forth. For instance, coffee used to be in there. They took it out. Coffee was up 73% last year. Cost of housing is a big component, and you know what cost of housing has been in the last couple of years. So inflation is likely to continue. Maybe it subsides a tad, but it's a serious thing, and it really bites into people's incomes and net worth.
Okay, so and almost on the opposite spectrum, we hear a lot about economic recession. Some people say we're in it already. Mm-hmm. We're in the midst of one. There's a lot of speculation. So I'd like to hear your opinion.
Sure, right. We've been waiting for a recession for years, and an official recession hasn't quite come. If you're an unemployed individual, a recession is here. If you're a working individual, well, not a big deal, right? Officially, the unemployment numbers are somewhere around 4 or 5%. Most economists anticipate that it's probably 50% higher than that. But recessions are a normal phase. They come and go. What the government considers a recession might be different than what we consider a recession. Like I said, if you're working, it's okay. If you're unemployed, it's recessionary, and it's not a good thing. It's just a normal cycle, and at some point along the way, we can't eliminate recessions. They just occur, and somewhere down the road, we're likely to see one again. The question becomes, is it going to be more severe? Maybe a little bit less severe. It's hard to say.
Yeah, there's no one who really knows if it's coming or not.
No, we could look at data that can lead us down a certain path, but recessions aren't going to go away, and you hope a recession doesn't turn into a depression.
And then we hear a lot about, interest rates higher, lower, the presidential election. And does the president actually have anything to do with interest rates? I know we're on the eve of an election. Mm-hmm. So, the rates have been going up, they've been going down. How is this going to be affected by
Right, so not only are we on the eve of an election, but typically as of today, we're on the eve of the Federal Reserve making an interest rate decision tomorrow. It's very likely a high probability. It's put at almost 100%, which I think now the economic data shows a 98% probability of an interest rate cut tomorrow. It's a matter if it's 25 basis points or 50. So it looks pretty certain that short-term interest rates will be cut. However, the Federal Reserve determines short-term interest rates. The markets determine long-term interest rates, and there's probably a higher probability that longer-term rates, which impacts mortgages and borrowing and corporate restructuring, those type of longer-term rates are likely to stay the same or go a little higher, probably not likely to go lower.
Right. And whoever is elected president, you think people get a little panicky before an election? Because I know a lot of people fear that something will happen. But I don't know if that's actually affected by it, the president, him or her.
Yeah, so as far as interest rates, technically the president does not have any influence on interest rates. As far as panicky before election, usually people and businesses, they want some certainty. They want to know. They want to have a handle on which candidate is going to win or likely to win. This election, it is a coin toss. It's 50% for one candidate one day, 49% for the next day, and then a couple days later it flips. So where investors are really nervous is not on who's going to win per se, whether it's one side or the other, but there's no clear path that tells us which candidate right now has an advantage or disadvantage. It is literally a toss-up by all polls that are taken.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting election.
It will be a very interesting election.
And there's a little ways to go. So.
And there's some time to go, yes.
And lastly, and I don't really know anything, but we're talking about tariffs, from Washington. And are they good, are they bad? How does this affect the American consumers? And just explain the tariff first.
Sure. So tariff is another word that we hear a lot about from the candidates. And understand what a tariff is. A tariff is us charging for imports coming into the country. So in some sense, it's a way of supporting American business, and it sounds good. It sounds fabulous. Buy American. Let's buy American products, give Americans jobs. There's a cost to that, though. Listen, being mayor, there's things that the city has to buy, and you vote not just on policy, but on how money's spent. Sure. If you have to make a decision on if items might be bought overseas or from somebody on the West Coast, and everyone feels good about buying domestically, let's buy American, but the trade-off could be this. If there's a tariff on the product, or if there's not a tariff on the product, the products from overseas can cost significantly less. The products that are bought in the United States can cost significantly more. So what might be good for the workers on the West Coast might not be good for a guy that lives on Mount Prospect or on Clifton Ave. So tariffs have a cost. It's a way of taxing the people for the benefit of Americans keeping their jobs. From an economic point of view, tariffs sort of reward the unproductive and kind of penalize the productive people, because where tariffs come in is when we start to tax or put an excess tax on products that are coming in from overseas that are not made in the United States. So they start out with great intentions, but they don't always work out the way we want them to. Tariffs used to be a tax that you put on products from countries that you were having a war against, and you just didn't want their products coming into your country. Now tariffs are kind of a buzzword that the politicians are throwing around, that we have to be careful from an economic viewpoint. We have to be careful what we wish for.
Right.
So,
because we want to keep American jobs, but also we don't want to pay.
You want to keep American jobs, but there's a cost to that.
There's a cost to that.
So there's a cost to that. So is it beneficial to help someone in another state that helps keep their job, but at the cost of your neighbor, because you're now saying I might be willing to pay more for that particular product because it's made by someone. So who's more important now? And that's a decision that's it's a difficult answer.
No, and I appreciate that. It's just a little bit of tidbit here, what's going on, and we asked Gerard to come on because we know before an election, there's a lot of questions. People want to know where the economy's going. Should they invest? Should they not invest? So it helps us out a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing I say, when it comes to investing, everyone is different, and nothing that I say is really financial advice. It's between you and your financial advisor, and everyone has a particular different situation so what might be appropriate for someone might be less appropriate for someone else. But to put things in perspective, hopefully I've answered for you and your audience.
Why we have, I appreciate it. But thanks a lot for the info. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Ray.
Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Hello, Clifton and friends. Welcome to the updates. I'm Sharon Korbanix and happy to share some news with you today. Well, the Recreation Department invites all adults over the age of 55 to join them for weekly line dancing Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Clifton Boys and Girls Club, beginning September 25th and continuing to December 4th. And everyone ages 5 and up are invited to the Recreation Department's Enchanted Forest Trail Adventure Family Hike. The hike will take place on Saturday, October 5th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Ramapo Valley County Reservation. And if the great outdoors aren't your calling this fall, feel free to check out the Recreation Department's Puppet Party, Karaoke, and Lip Sync, featuring puppeteering tips and skill building, as well as karaoke fun. There will also be a great opportunity to spend quality time with your children while they learn about music with a Music Together workshop backed by popular demand at the Clifton Arts Center. And that's Thursdays throughout October at 1 p.m. And the Boys and Girls Club of Clifton invites everyone to attend their annual Taste of Clifton Food and Wine Festival on October 21st from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and tickets are on sale now and will be discounted depending on how quickly you get yours. So act as soon as possible and call 973-773-0966 for more details. And also the Clifton Arts Center invites you to visit and see the upcoming exhibit, Poland, Our Heritage and Culture, on display from September 25th through October 26th with an artist meet and greet Saturday, September 28th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And finally, the County of Passaic will be hosting the 5th annual Fishing Derby at Maine Memorial Park September 28th, beginning at 7 a.m. Prizes will be awarded for the most fish and largest fish in each age group, so please be sure to attend for your chance to win. And for more information on these and other events, please visit www.cliftonrec.com. passaic.com or call 973-470-5956 or visit the Recreation Department at City Hall. And thank you again for your attention and time. We'll see you around the neighborhood soon, and we do appreciate your interest.
So welcome back with me, my next guest, Samantha Neville. She's Passaic County Programs Manager for Prevention is Key organization. And mental health is a really big topic. It's growing every year. It's probably one of the biggest topics out there because it affects a lot of people, a lot of lives. So we're going to start with, what is Passaic Hope One program? Explain the program to us.
Sure. So Passaic Hope One is a program that's funded by Passaic County Human Services, Department of Human Services. And we are a mobile outreach program. So we go all over Passaic County trying to connect folks with resources and services for things like mental health and substance use. And the services and things are already existing community services and resources, but a lot of folks have trouble navigating those systems and knowing what to do and how to do it. So we provide that extra hands-on support in navigating those resources, and just creating awareness of the available resources that this county has to offer.
Right. And so, so what's the purpose? You know, you conduct street level outreach. So what's the purpose of this?
So the purpose of that is because for a very long time we've identified a biggest barrier for people getting to treatment and services and stuff is lack of transportation, right, or lack of being able to get to the location. Right. So we, in Morris County, they piloted the Hope One program in Morris County, but we brought it over here to Passaic because of the idea of, well, let's bring the services to the folks that need it. Okay. So let's just eliminate that barrier altogether.
Okay.
So we provide street level services.
That's good. So harm reduction implemented on the Passaic Hope One program. You just explain a little bit.
Yeah, so harm reduction is not just like things like Narcan or other supplies. It's a way of thinking about how to reduce harm when you can't get out of a current situation. So like going on a construction site, you reduce harm by wearing a hard hat. So, I mean, that's a very kind of like general comparison, but as far as harm reduction goes for mental health and substance use, we accept the fact that a lot of the folks that we interact with are going to continue to use substances, but they still deserve our support and care. So we try to minimize the harm as much as possible by providing things that would reduce the onset of infections and stuff like that, because they are going to do it anyway. So let's keep them safer, which keeps them alive longer, which gives them more opportunities to make some different decisions and like pursue other avenues.
Right. So you talk about peer recovery specialist role.
Yes.
What's the difference here?
So most people are used to thinking about it in terms of like the clinical world, right, and the treatment world. So my background, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I'm not a peer recovery specialist, but I kind of fell in love with the field because it eliminated a lot of the barriers that I would see as a clinician, like building rapport. Right. It takes a while, but with a peer recovery specialist, someone who's had lived experience with problematic substance use, that time is decreased by 80%, right, just because of that shared knowledge and that experience. And they're able to establish rapport a lot quicker, and they have less like red tape to go through, so to speak.
Okay, multiple pathways.
Yes, so multiple pathways is so that's what my organization operates off of. And how we interpret that is whatever your pathway is, it's not our place to dictate that, but it's yours because it's your recovery. So recovery is self-defined. So if that's an abstinence-based recovery where you use no substances whatsoever, we're here to support that. If it's a hybrid method, or if it's some method that I'm not even aware of, we're here to support that. And if it's harm reduction, we're here to support that too, with the goal of you getting to a place of wellness and happiness at some point.
Right.
Always with that goal in mind.
And we understand, and we talked about this at other different venues on recovery. It's big, and people need the avenues to get there.
Yes.
It's possible, and a lot of people do recover.
Yes.
But you have to have outreach.
You have to have outreach.
And that's important. And so the last question I'm asking is, what's the goal, the ultimate goal of Passaic Hope One?
So the ultimate goal of Passaic Hope One and all of the things that we do and all the services that we offer is to reduce fatal overdoses in Passaic County, or to reduce the onset of medical diseases that can be prevented, which then strains our medical system, which then causes like other public health issues, is to reduce that, which then ultimately reduces the need for funding because the problem is smaller, so the resources needed to address it are smaller in the long run.
Right.
At least that's how I think about it.
No, and that's important. I know that hope was the theme for this year, because it's important.
It's very important.
People need to have hope, and we can't thank you enough for what you're doing. We will have this posted on the bottom so that people need to reach out.
Beautiful.
Because there's no stigma. You can't have stigma anymore. People have problems. They need to ask for help, and help is available.
Yes.
It's no more you're afraid or you're embarrassed. I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
And I think people are willing now to help, but they need to know that programs like this exist. So we appreciate your time and everything you do. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. I have two interesting guests with me, both with the same name, Kenji Yamashita, senior and junior. They're artists and teachers. One's at Fairlawn Board of Education, but we're here to talk about they designed the Clifton flag design.
No, I designed
The Clifton flag design.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about it, but first just give me a little brief history of yourselves.
I've been a Clifton resident since 1990, and I've been teaching since 1990.
Okay. So, obviously, we're here to talk about the Clifton flag, which I'm interested to see. So, what's the inspiration behind the flag?
Well, I had a situation where I tried to get a flag for the city of Passaic, and it got rejected. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, 9/11, and then there was an ad in the Clifton Journal on a flag contest. So I joined the contest. I won it. And then after I won it, the city council wanted me to delve in and put more symbols and things like that into the flag. And then eventually it was produced at a very high amount of money. And then I believe 2 or 3 years later, Gates finally made a silkscreen version, which is now pretty much affordable.
So you won the competition.
Exactly.
So that must have meant a lot to you.
It meant a lot. They gave me a little check and a little bit in the newspaper, and that was that.
That's nice. So
Yeah.
we will have it on the screen, but looking closely at the flag, can you explain what each symbol means?
So I had the Clifton colors of the high school,
Okay.
the maroon and the gray, and then 5 major areas of the town. So there were 5 stars. I had a grain laurel wreath surrounding the center seal, the Lenape name of Aquakanonk with the date, and then the date of, I think it was 1917 when Clifton became a state. Now, inside you have a lot of things. You have Hamilton House on the bottom, you have a running Mustang, you have a factory, because Clifton was known for its factories. There's a red tractor, and then in the background it's somewhat subtle of New York City, because it was just after 9/11. So it's not exactly like the towers, but
And it's great
subtle.
to have a city flag now.
It is. Yeah.
But where would you like to see it flown more? I mean, obviously we would probably do it at City Hall, but
It's been at City Hall and it's been in the chambers for all this time. And my idea was just maybe start with some of the firehouses, and get it visible there. And if any businesses want to do that with the firehouses, I was thinking little by little of donating the flag to them if they would fly it. But I have to run it by, I guess, the fire chiefs and see if they would do that.
But I would also think, I have a business in Clifton with the flagpole, obviously the American flag. And
Right,
a lot of
right.
people have POWs or their ethnic background. But
Right.
to have the city flag underneath would be cool.
Yeah.
It would look nice. And
My students, they do flags. My 7th graders, they have to do it digital. And I tell them that this is a very, very strong part of identity. And I think, not to criticize, but I think New Jersey's flag needs to be improved. I have a very good design, very strong design. I entered a contest that was not official. And the one that won kind of ripped off, I guess, Austin, Texas. It's just a sash, and it was for Washington, but mine is a little bit more. I always tell people, get to the point. You want to do Pennsylvania, just put a keystone. Like Utah, just put a honeycomb in there for the Beehive State. So you got to be very, very specific and not clutter it up with a coat of arms.
Yeah, because if people looking at you,
Right,
you want to
it's
take
too
your
much.
eyes off- you
Right,
want to take your eyes
too
off
much
the road and try-
information,
too much
and now there's
information.
rules of vexillology, which I did not imply those kind of rules when I did this flag. So but we got a great flag, and it tells all about the history of the town. And I'd like to see it around the town a lot
Yeah,
more.
and I'm sure it will be. But if I know you're into art and you're like, so how would you like to incorporate more art, just art, into the area?
Well, my son has the idea of, we see murals going up every now and then. I do murals in my school. When I was in Elizabeth, believe it or not, my old school, which was Mabel G. Holmes, now changed to school number 7, and I did that mural in 1994. And believe it or not, it's still there. It's faded out, even though they changed the name of the school. So I even reached out to them and said if they want me to repaint it to school number 7, I would do that. But we're thinking even the basketball courts. We're big into sports, so we were thinking, do that. Maybe have like the flag painted as a mural somewhere, and just get a little bit more of the history and
Sure.
of the town, into it.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people are watching. They may come up with ideas. We will list your names at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I have one question for you. What projects do you have coming up in the future?
So any projects coming up in the future, like just to piggyback off of what my dad said, we do a lot of murals. And to go into it, just trying to get actually more well-versed into the Clifton area. So I would say be more in with the Arts Center and to be more part of the community, I think would be big.
In my middle school, I started a project in 2019 where I was doing murals in the band room, and it was very, very elaborate, and they're very large and they're very high up, and each mural of each artist, singer or musician, was to look like it was from a different artist. Yeah. So I just finished, let's say, Yo-Yo Ma, and I did it in Impressionism. I did Jimi Hendrix, Psychedelic. It took me over 200 hours. So I like to, what I do is I donate my time, and I donate my own money. And we just did a trilogy of Children of the World. So me and my students worked on that last year and the year before. So we did Anne Frank. We did Pablo Picasso as a young boy painting his older self. And we did Malala. Okay, so I get involved a lot into putting my own effort into things.
And we appreciate this, and hopefully we'll be in touch. We'll
people have told me that now that I've made contact with Gates, some of the people over there, they want me to get involved maybe with an association on flag design and stuff like that.
No, we really appreciate this. We thank you for coming on the show. We'll have more hopefully through the Art Center, but thank you for your efforts and your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing the flag myself after this.
And I'm good into designing uniforms too. So.
Well, thank you very much both for coming on. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Hey, pretty baby, don't you hear the band of one day? You hear the hip hip with the backbeat.
Okay, well, that's our show for tonight. We thank everyone for tuning in tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. As always, be good to your friends and family. Respect your neighbors. This is a great city. Keep Clifton close to your heart. Thank you, and have a good night.